Francis Ryan, Crippled, Austerity and the Demonization of Disabled People. Enter the world of A Crippled, Austerity and the Demonization of Disabled People by Francis Ryan, where the struggles faced by disabled individuals in modern Britain become alarmingly clear. Understand how the government's austerity measures have detrimentally impacted the lives of disabled people. Delve into the unjust treatment they receive, including severe financial cuts, housing issues, and discrimination in the workplace. Discover the psychological challenges brought on by societal expectations that exacerbate existing problems. The lives of disabled people in Britain are becoming harder, and it's time to shed light on their struggles and raise awareness on the realities behind the stereotypes.
Austerity's devastating impact. Historically, Britain's welfare system was trailblazing, but in 2017, the United Nations declared a human catastrophe for disabled people in the country. This shift is attributed to the austerity policies implemented by David Cameron's Conservative Party government in response to the 2008 financial crisis. These policies targeted disabled citizens, reversing progress in disability rights and forcing many into desperate situations. The reversal of disability benefits resulted in hardships, such as Jim Bob, an engineer from Scotland, who had to resort to extreme measures to save on heating costs. Disabled people faced 9 times more cuts than their non-disabled counterparts, with the most severely affected facing 19 times more cuts, according to a 2013 research by the Center for Welfare Reform. These cuts left many disabled people destitute and were based on the false premise that they were exploiting the system. The austerity trap for disabled. The new austerity program largely affected the United Kingdom's social welfare system, slashing £28 billion from the income of people with disabilities since 2010. The government attempted to justify these cuts by labeling benefit recipients as exploiters, despite fraud levels in disability living allowance claims being only 0.5%. The switch to personal independence payments resulted in almost half of 3 million claimants losing part of their benefits due to stricter requirements. Countless individuals, like 51-year-old Bessie, have had their already difficult lives made worse as they struggle to afford basic necessities. Austerity has weakened the safety net meant for those in need, while grants and loans for crises have reduced significantly. Ironically, disabled people like Bessie face higher living costs compared to non-disabled individuals, and the limited support provided often forces them into poverty. Dismantling disability stereotypes. Disabled individuals regularly contend with 2 conflicting stereotypes, being labeled as scroungers or pitiable, helpless beings. The British government's stringent sanctions on benefits and inflexible, fit-for-work tests compound the issue. These poorly executed assessments have resulted in distressing inaccuracies and even been linked to suicides. Furthermore, employed disabled workers often experience low pay, workplace discrimination, and harsh conditions. This reveals that the system consistently penalizes disabled people at every turn. One primary aspect of the struggle faced by disabled individuals is confronting contradictory stereotypes. They are either deemed as scroungers, receiving benefits without working, or seen as powerless and dependent on others. This harmful dichotomy is glaringly evident when discussing employment. In the UK, the government zealously enforces sanctions on disability benefit claimants. Particularly rigorous measures were implemented in December 2012, which can deprive claimants of benefits for up to 3 years for even missing a single job center appointment. However, these sanctions are often misused, such as an epileptic individual losing benefits due to hospitalization during multiple seizures. Equally harmful are the government's notorious fit-for-work tests, which have mistakenly categorized countless disabled people as employable. A striking example is Christina, whose severe health complications left her in immense pain, yet her assessment declared her able to work, without consulting her doctor. Astoundingly, about 70% of disabled people deemed suitable for employment have successfully appealed this decision. The University of Liverpool also linked these faulty tests to 590 suicides in England in 2015. Employed disabled individuals face additional hardships, such as low wages, around one-third earn below the national living wage. A 2017 Scope study also revealed that half of the disabled workforce encountered bullying or harassment due to their disabilities. Moreover, disabled employees often struggle with unsuitable jobs, unsupportive workplaces, and lack of understanding for their conditions, leading to stress, injury, and discriminatory job loss. Ultimately, the plight of disabled people exposes a deeply flawed system that haplessly penalizes them at every stage, most notably in the realm of employment. Wheelchairs, key to independence. Independence is a dream many disabled individuals, like 53-year-old Philomena with multiple chronic illnesses, long for. Having limited mobility in no wheelchair, Philomena is virtually housebound. She cannot rely on the United Kingdom's government-run National Health Service, NHS, for assistance, as they face financial constraints and struggle to provide wheelchairs. The story is not unique to Philomena, as many others face similar challenges due to austerity programs that deny disabled people the support they need. A decline in social care provisions further exacerbates the situation, with less personal support for those in need. Since 2010, adult social care cuts have totaled almost £6 billion, and in 2015, research by Scope found that 8 out of 10 disabled people don't receive adequate social care hours. This deficiency leads to people going without showers, meals, or sleeping in their clothes. The government-funded Independent Living Fund, a vital personal care provider, closed completely in 2014. Subsequently, disabled individuals, like 30-year-old Pete, are forced to move into care homes meant for the elderly, with over 3,300 working-age disabled people now residing in elderly care homes across England. This decline in services for disabled people not only reverses decades of progress made in the United Kingdom but also calls back to the historical mistreatment of disabled individuals who were warehoused in out-of-town institutions. Current regressive social policies are actively hindering disabled people from achieving independence. Housing crisis for the disabled. Home should be a haven, but for many disabled individuals finding a suitable home is a daunting challenge. The Equality and Human Rights Commission reports that 93% of housing in England is inaccessible to disabled people. This shortage results in detrimental living situations for those with physical and mental disabilities. Unfit living conditions can exacerbate existing health issues or create new ones, as seen in the case of Robert, a physically disabled man whose unsuitable apartment led to a decline in his health. The housing crisis disproportionately affects disabled people, as accessible housing options are scarce and often temporary. These individuals face difficulties acquiring private rental contracts that allow for necessary modifications, and the reduction of available housing for low-income families further complicates the situation. Additionally, disabled individuals are more likely to experience homelessness, with rates increasing by 75% since 2010. Disabled women and children face unique challenges within this crisis, making the need for suitable housing even more pressing. Austerity's impact on disabled women. Austerity measures have disproportionately affected disabled women, magnifying the existing challenges they face. Among these women are single mothers who struggle to make ends meet due to benefit cuts, with some losing up to £7,000 per year. These circumstances often exacerbate their disabilities and result in negative consequences, such as the heartbreaking case of Jessica, whose children were removed from her care. Furthermore, disabled women experiencing domestic violence find limited support and refuge, with only 1 in 10 shelters being accessible for the physically disabled. Additionally, the lack of government assistance forces some disabled women, like Alice, into difficult situations like sex work. It is evident that austerity has been unsympathetic to the unique struggles these women face. Hidden struggles of disabled children. Not long ago, disabled children were completely isolated from society, with limited opportunities in segregated schools. Today, these children are inspired to live independently just like their non-disabled peers. However, they face numerous challenges due to insufficient support systems. The number of disabled students in specialized schools is increasing, and they make up almost half of those permanently expelled. Sadly, these children struggle even outside school due to austerity measures, particularly affecting families with disabled children who spend 43% more than those without. These circumstances result in a third of disabled children living below the poverty line, raising the question of how much progress we have truly made. Despite the improvement in societal acceptance, disabled children still face a myriad of obstacles in their pursuit of independence. The rising number of disabled students attending specialized schools has been criticized by the United Nations. These children are 6 times more likely to be excluded and make up almost half of permanently expelled students like Lewis, who bears the burden of autism, sensory processing disorder, and dyspraxia. Lewis's difficult journey illustrates a broader issue for disabled children who experience inadequacies both within and beyond the education system. On top of school-related challenges, austerity measures have hit families with disabled children particularly hard since state support has not increased since 2012. Consequently, child benefits for many households have depreciated. These changes drastically impact families raising disabled children, as they require 43% more funds than families with non-disabled children while often having reduced working hours for caregiving. Shockingly, 2018 research by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation revealed that a third of disabled children live below the poverty line. By 2021, these households will lose an average of £3,300 annually due to tax and benefit changes. Reflecting on the past few decades, one may wonder, have we truly made significant progress in supporting disabled children and their families? Reversing the disabled maltreatment. Social welfare cuts around the early 2020s have led to a significant increase in hate crimes against disabled individuals. However, attitudes are changing with greater awareness and calls for support. There is hope in reversing this trend, but it requires collective effort to champion adequate state support for disabled people, enabling them to contribute wholly to society. Time is crucial, as various crises risk further worsening the situation, and the way society treats its disabled members reflects its overall humanity. By the early 2020s, social welfare cuts totaled £35 billion per year, coupled with £47 billion in Treasury savings from tax cuts by 2021 to 22. The public seemingly approved this, as evidenced by increased hate crimes against disabled people. The issue isn't simply the lack of provision for disabled individuals, but a pervasive indifference to their plight. However, changes in perception are emerging. Austerity has lost popularity, evidenced by then Prime Minister Theresa May's proclamation in 2018 that austerity is over, despite impending cuts. The 2017 British Social Attitude Survey revealed a rise in support for spending on disability benefits, reaching 67% up from 2010's 53%. Moreover, fewer people now perceive benefit claimants as dishonest. While it's unsettling that the mistreatment of disabled people in recent years was a conscious choice, this realization means that the situation can be turned around. It's crucial for everyone to advocate state support for disabled people, recognizing that enabling their full societal contributions relies on sufficient assistance. Nevertheless, time is sensitive. Britain faces various crises, including a decline in affordable housing, decreasing living standards, uncertain Brexit impacts, and the disastrous introduction of the new benefits system, universal credit. These challenges potentially create a more devastating impact on those needing the utmost support. Ultimately, the manner in which society treats disabled individuals reflects its overall humanity. Should we allow disabled people to suffer from hunger and exclusion, it speaks volumes about our moral compass. Change is necessary and urgent, demanding collective action to steer society in a more humane direction.
As we come to the end of this poignant summary, it's impossible not to see the severe mistreatment and neglect disabled individuals face in today's Britain. The book clearly demonstrates the effects of austerity policies on their lives, leading to financial hardships, housing crises, and perpetuation of harmful stereotypes. We must reassess society's attitude towards disabled people and strive for change, ensuring they are treated fairly and supported to reach their full potential. While public perception might be slowly shifting, the urgency for substantial positive change is vital, as there is much work to be done for the well-being of disabled individuals in Britain and worldwide.